Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another video, and today we're going to be going over my way too early NBA All-Star picks. As the video title suggests, we're still 2 months away from the All-Star game, so a lot of these picks could very well change, maybe even tomorrow, definitely some of them by the time the game itself rolls around, but voting has just gotten underway, and it's a big topic of discussion on my Twitter timeline at the moment, so I thought, what better time than now to go ahead and let you know what I'm thinking about these teams in the moment. We're going to start with the West. I'm going to go starters, bench, as well as some honorable mentions, and then we'll move over to the East and do the exact same thing. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos, and comment down below letting me know who the biggest snub that I had was on these lists. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, I will say that this is probably the hardest All-Star list I've ever had to make. The league is more talented than ever, and there are so many names that I wanted to fit on this list, but I just couldn't. Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, let's begin with the Western Conference. At the Western Conference guard spots, I have Luka Doncic and Steph Curry. Luka's game speaks for himself. He's a 30-point triple-double waiting to happen any given night. He can hit a game winner over you, a step back three, attack the basket, draw a foul, whatever you need Luka to do, he can do it offensively. One of the better playmakers in the league as well. And if he had more help around him, he would probably be deep in the MVP conversations. And the only reason why he isn't one of the favorites is because right now the Mavericks record-wise are sitting at just 500. I do think they could get better and better if maybe they find some more cohesion, but all around, it's kind of been a Luka carry job for most of the year. If he's not on the court, the Mavericks really struggle, and I think that speaks to his value. Luka 100% deserves to be a starter this year. Then we get to Steph Curry, who despite the Warriors' lack of success, is having one of the best individual seasons of his entire career. Many of his numbers look eerily similar to or even eclipse his unanimous MVP numbers, which is completely absurd for a guy in his mid-30s. Steph's been a monster, still the best three-point shooter in the league, unbelievable playmaker. Defensively, he's better than people give him credit for, and he's really able to improve the game of every single player around him. If you don't believe me, when the Warriors have Steph Curry this season, they're the best team in the league net rating wise, and when he's off the court, they've been the worst. That basically tells the whole story. Now, he is going to miss the next month or so with a shoulder injury, so that might keep him off of this list when the game itself rolls around, but for right now, with the way that he's played, he's got to be a starter. Then we get to the front court, where I have Zion Williamson, Anthony Davis, and Nikola Jokic. Zion, before the year, I said could be a dark horse MVP candidate. I made a full video on that, and maybe it's time to update that because he's been so good. He's still one of the most dominant forces inside. Everybody watching the game, everybody defending, knows that Zion wants to get to the basket, but it doesn't matter how many defenders you throw at him, he's still going to find his way there. And even if you do stonewall him somehow, he's able to consistently find shooters on the perimeter. His playmaking and his vision has only gotten better and better. He handles the ball. He is just an absolute destructive force inside, and there's nothing you can really do to guard Zion. Then we have Anthony Davis, who prior to the season, it felt like he may never truly regain that superstar status that he acquired over the past few years due to a lot of injuries and just inconsistent play. However, this year he's playing probably the best basketball that he ever has, dominant defensively as we typically seen, right in the thick of the defensive player of the year conversations, and offensively, he's knocking down shots more consistently, he's dominant inside. There's nothing you can really do to stop Anthony Davis once he gets the ball on the block. Now, he did just suffer a pretty major injury to his foot that the Lakers aren't giving us a ton of info on, which makes me think that it might be pretty bad and could inevitably keep him out of the All-Star game, but in terms of what he's done up to this point, Anthony Davis has to be a starter. Then to nobody's surprise, we have Nikola Jokic, who's an absolute monster. He's a two-time MVP and currently vying for maybe a third, as the Nuggets are sitting at the 1 seed in the Western Conference as I make this video. He's just unstoppable. You can double team him all you want, but he's going to pick apart your defense as one of the best playmakers of all time, and you have to send those doubles because he can also score 30 or 40 points every night if he truly wanted to. A lot of nights he focuses on playmaking for others, and so his numbers are a bit down from his past two MVP seasons, but regardless, the impact is still there. He's still a top 5 player in the league, and Nikola Jokic makes defenders look silly on the regular. He has to be 100% a starter on this list. At the backup guard spots, I have Gilgeous-Alexander and John Morant. If you know me, you know how badly I wanted to put Shai on here as a starter. I just don't think I could objectively justify him being over Steph Curry or Luka Doncic, who are both having historical seasons. Not that Shai isn't, because he is also making some history, but right now, I think he's a little bit behind them. If one of them doesn't play in the game, I think he will be the next guy to slot up. But for right now, I had to put my bias aside. And regardless, Shai is still having a phenomenal season, averaging over 30 points per game, one of the best mid-range shooters in the entire world, one of the best finishers around the rim in the entire NBA. And overall, he's been one of the best clutch players in the league this season. And in fact, this year that he's having clutch-wise is one of the best over the past decade. It's been phenomenal to watch him rise to superstardom. And regardless of not if he is a starter, he's still going to make an all All-NBA case when everything's said and done. Then we have Ja Morant, who's a walking human highlight reel. Every time you watch him play, he's going to have 30 moments where you're like, that could be on the SportsCenter top 10, which numbers-wise doesn't make sense. But then again, neither does Ja Morant. A guy this athletic shouldn't be possible. He has the craziest blocks in the world. He can dunk on you, finish at the rim at a high level, play make for others. He's just phenomenal. It's Ja Morant. What more do you want me to say? Next up off the bench, we have LeBron James, who, when you consider the fact that this is his 20th season, is having one of the most impressive years I have ever seen. I do think that he will end up a starter due to the fan vote aspect of the way that they decide the starters, but for me, objectively, I've got to move him to the bench, although once again, a phenomenal year. He's still putting up monster numbers as nearly a 40-year-old player. The Lakers haven't been phenomenal, but it's not LeBron James's fault. He still is one of the best playmakers in the league, one of the best scorers in the league. It feels like he will never truly slow down, and it feels like he will continue to make all-star games until he decides himself to stop showing up. Then we have Domantas Sabonis, who has gone under the radar this season, having a phenomenal year both offensively and defensively, surprisingly. A lot of people were worried about how the Kings defense might look with Sabonis there as their primary big, but he stepped up in a big way, which many people may not realize, but with him and De'Aaron Fox there as the duo, they've done a lot of things well that have gotten the Kings back up to being a potential playoff squad, and I think Sabonis has been the better of the two guys, so he gets the all-star spot here. My final front court spot does go to Paul George, who has missed some time, but when he's played, he's been plenty good enough to help the Clippers out in a big way. Kawhi Leonard has been in and out of the lineup, and I think Kawhi as well could end up making this list if he continues to stay healthy, but I believe Paul George has been the better of the two players right now. One of the big reasons why the Clippers are currently still in the thick of the first seed race in the West, despite missing multiple guys over multiple games. PG has still been really, really good, although his numbers might be a bit down in some areas. Paul George is just really impactful, and so I felt like I still need to put him on this list, as well as give the Clippers some sort of representation. For the final two wildcard spots, I have Devin Booker and Damian Lillard. Book has been amazing. If it weren't for him, the Suns would probably be towards the bottom of the Western Conference. He's one of the most complete scorers in the league, a solid defender, a solid playmaker, a mid-range assassin, a clutch guy. He can drop 50 points any night if you need him to. Book is just phenomenal, and he has to be on this list, as well as Damian Lillard, who has missed a good chunk of the season, but he's played enough games for my liking to still make the list. He can drop 7 threes, 11 threes, 30 points, 10 dimes. It's Damian Lillard. You know how good he is, and after last year where he had a consistent injury and had a really down year, I was a bit worried that we might not see this superstar, maybe even MVP caliber type of play out of Damian Lillard again, but he's proved me wrong and been phenomenal when he's shown up in matchups. As for the honorable mentions out west, I have names like De'Aaron Fox, who once again, I wanted to put on this list, but I just couldn't fit him in over the stacked crop of guards in the West. You've got Desmond Bane, who also just doesn't make the cut, mainly due to his lack of games played. He was phenomenal in his 12 when he did show up. However, due to an injury, he hasn't played since then, although he's supposed to be coming back maybe even tonight as I'm recording this video. Jaren Jackson Jr. I think might make a case as well for an all-star spot if he continues to defend the way that he has, but once again has not played enough games. You have Kawhi Leonard, who I think will probably end up making the game mainly due to his name recognition, assuming he does play enough games to make it. Right now, it just hasn't been enough for me. Rudy Gobert still playing some phenomenal defense for Minnesota, but the numbers aren't quite there, nor is the team's success. And same with Karl Anthony Towns, who I think could also make a case if he comes back from injury sooner than later. And finally, Lauri Markkanen. I really wanted to give Lauri a spot on here, one of the leaders for most improved player, but once again, the NBA is just stacked at the moment, and so I think all these guys just barely missed the cut. For the Eastern Conference, at the starting guard positions, I have Donovan Mitchell and Kyrie Irving. Spida has been phenomenal, not just been great, but he's even exceeded the expectations that many people had when he came to Cleveland, immediately became the superstar player that they were looking to acquire when they gave up a ton of capital. He's been exactly that. He's been an amazing offensive player, one of the best in the league, making a low-key MVP case through the beginning of the year. He's also been a good playmaker, as we typically see defensively. It's probably the best that he's ever been. It's Donovan Mitchell, and if you watch any Cavs games, you know for sure that he has to be a starter. Then we have Kyrie Irving, who despite his off-the-court issues, when he is playing, he's one of the best guards in the NBA. Elite handles, the best that we've ever seen in my opinion. He can score from anywhere on the court, and it feels like sometimes he just magically makes buckets appear. You see him in a situation where he's doubled, or there seems like no way he can slither around the defense, and he still manages to make it happen. That's just the magic that Kyrie brings to the court, and I do think that he's one of the biggest reasons why the Nets are on this big run that they are, and he should be a starting guard in the Eastern Conference right now. Over in the front court, we're going to start with Jason Tatum, who has been my MVP frontrunner for most of the season, and he probably still is at the moment. The Celtics have been on a bit of a backtrack, but he himself has still been great individually. He's had multiple 40-point performances, been one of the best perimeter defenders in the league so far this season, an elite scorer, a great two-way player overall. Playmaking-wise, he's getting guys involved, and his playmaking has been one of the biggest reasons why the Celtics offense has been so great over the course of the season. He's truly taken that rise to not just superstardom, but to maybe even becoming a top 5 player. So Jason Tatum gets the starter nod here. Next to him in the front court, we have Kevin Durant, who's having one of his most efficient seasons in his career despite being in his mid-30s, and that's insane for a player who's been ridiculously efficient over the course of everything like Kevin Durant has. But it's true, he has been dominant. He's an elite mid-range scorer, probably the best we have in the league at the moment. Nobody does it quite like him. You can put 4 defenders right in front of him, he's still going to shoot over everybody. He doesn't get to the basket much, and yet his efficiency is still top level. Elite 3-point shooter as well. Defensively, he's more locked in like we saw him over the course of his Golden State days. KD is just still one of the best players in the league. It's Kevin Durant, I don't have to say much more. In the final Eastern Conference front court spot, we have the best player in the world, Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Bucks right now are right next to the Celtics for the 1 seed out east. He's been a big reason why. Dominant defensively, offensively, continues to expand his game. He shot a crazy step back mid-range the other day that felt like I was watching like Kevin Durant play. And if Giannis can add stuff like that, he's only going to continue to solidify his case for the best in the world. It's Giannis. Once again, I don't think I need to say too much about him. For the Eastern Conference backups, I have Jaylen Brown and Tyrese Halliburton at the guard positions. I want to put JB in the starting lineup really bad, but I just think Kyrie edges him out a little bit. Brown, though, has been a huge contributor to the Celtics' success, having one of the best seasons of his career, really solid defensively, offensively, he continues to improve, and I do think he has a legitimate case to be the starting guard next to Donovan Mitchell, but for right now, I just have Kyrie a bit over him. And then you have Tyrese Halliburton, who has taken a huge leap since moving to Indiana, one of the best playmakers in the league, a high-level efficient scorer as well. Probably the biggest reason why the Pacers have been pretty solid this year, when many people, me included, thought they were going to be deep into the lottery at this point. I love what I've seen from Tyrese, and the Pacers have a true point guard 2.0 on their roster. To start off the front court, we have Pascal Siakam, who's having the best year of his career, trying to keep the Raptors afloat despite many other guys being pretty underwhelming, and it's been amazing to watch. Pascal is not only an elite offensive player, but defensively, he can lock you up, he can get you some clutch buckets. He had 50 points the other night against the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, ending their 8-game win streak. It's Pascal Siakam. If you've watched him play, you know why he should be on this list. Then we have Jimmy Butler, whose numbers are never going to pop off the page, but the impact is always there. Now, he hasn't played too many games. I believe it's about 22 out of the Heat's 30 or so, so he's right there on the cusp of maybe he hasn't played enough games to make this list, but it's my video, so I'm still going to put Jimmy Butler on here, and I think once he gets healthy and plays more games, he will 100% be on this team. Great offensive player. Defensively, he can lock you up, and one of the best clutch players we've seen in the league over the past few seasons. Jimmy Buckets just seems to make things happen and gets the Heat wins basically out of thin air. And finally, we have Joel Embiid, who I can't believe isn't a starter. It's so hard between him, Giannis, Kevin Durant, and Tatum to just pick 3, but Embiid at the moment has missed more games than those other guys, and I think the Sixers, if they continue to find more success, he could take one of those starting spots like maybe he should end up doing. But regardless, Embiid has been a monster, leading the league in scoring at the moment. Defensively, he's been better and better. Playmaking, he keeps improving. Joel Embiid is once again going to make an MVP case by the end of the year, and will probably be a starter by the time the game rolls around. And finally, in our 2 wildcard spots, we have Trae Young and Bam Adebayo. Trae, I know his efficiency numbers are down, but he's still putting up about 27 and 10. You have to give him a nod on this team, even if he's in scoring super efficiently. And over these past few games, he seems to be kind of refining some of that rhythm. I think the fit between him and DeJounte Murray is just kind of awkward, and he's still trying to figure that out while also navigating the lack of shooting that they've had this season. I still believe Trae Young is an all-star caliber player, even if he's not a starter or a bench guy and more so a wild card. And then you have Bam Adebayo, who's been one of the best defenders in the league. I feel like a lot of people are kind of down on him, which I don't quite understand. I understand the aggression is always an issue, and you have to see him consistently attack to be the best version of himself, but when he does so, Bam is nearly unstoppable, and regardless, defensively, he's going to give you 100% and easily be in the Defensive Player of the Year runnings every single year that he plays. Bam is a monster, and his impact is way beyond what his numbers say, so I'm putting him here on this list. Finally, our honorable mentions include names like Drew Holiday, who I really thought about putting on here over some of these other names, but he just didn't end up making the cut. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if he does make this team because his defensive impact and his ability to step up in the absence of Chris Middleton to begin this year has been really, really impressive. You've also got Darius Garland, who was on this team last season, but his numbers have been down. Efficiency-wise, he struggled a bit as Donovan Mitchell has kind of taken the spotlight from him. Darius Garland, I think, could make a case, but I would be kind of surprised if he passed some of these other players. Then you have James Harden, whose numbers are still really, really good, and because of the name factor, I think could make the team, but I just have him a bit behind some of these other guards. You also have the two guys from the Knicks, Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, I thought about putting on here as well, and I think if the Knicks continue to find success the way that they have, they will get at least one All-Star. And finally, OG Anunoby, playing like a defensive player of the year caliber guy. Offensively, he's gotten better and better, and overall, he's having a breakout season. I just didn't think there was enough room for him. Hey y'all, it's Future Cone. I'm editing the video and realized I forgot a couple of names. DeMar DeRozan, Paolo Banchero, Kristaps Porzingis, and DeJounte Murray all also should be in this honorable mention section, and I didn't want to finish this without including them. Those are my All-Star picks for right now. Like I said, let me know who the biggest snubs were in the comment section below. As always, I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. This All-Star team is very, very hard to pick. There are going to be some massive snubs when things roll around, so I hope your favorite player made the list, and if they didn't, my bad. I'll see y'all later. Rail and say it back.